Hello everyone and welcome back to Eddie Style channel. Today we're gonna talk about one of my favorite topics in the whole world, aliens. Many people think that aliens are just works of fiction, and I can understand why, kinda. You see a whole lot of movies on them, you read books on them, you even heard that Katy Perry song. Aliens are so immersed in pop culture that people don't think they could actually exist. Which is crazy because why would we be totally alone in the whole universe? Anyways, today I'll present to you 5 real stories about alien abduction that were reported, investigated, and left me creeped out, but also excited. But before I begin, I have my space hoodie especially for this video, so please subscribe to my channel and let's start. Number 5. Amy Rylance alien abduction. 2001, the 22-year-old Amy Rylance from Australia was just chilling on her property with her husband Keith and their friend Petra Heller. It was supposed to be just another calm night in the small town of Tiero, which populates only about 700 people. At 9:30 p.m., Keith and Petra did what small town people are supposed to do and went to sleep early. They retired to their respected caravan bedrooms while Amy was still watching TV. But then, things started to get kinda scary. Petra reported that around 11:15 p.m. she woke up after seeing a huge light beam that was projected through the window into the lounge, and it carried Amy headfirst into a spaceship. Upon Petra screaming, Keith, Amy's husband, woke up and rushed to help. But by the time he entered the lounge, Petra had fainted and Amy was gone. Where were you when Amy needed you? Keith immediately called the Tiero police in Gandia around 11:40 p.m. to report his missing wife. The police came to the scene, and the officer in charge of Tiero police, Sergeant John Bosniak, found that a bush outside of the lounge window was affected by severe heat. While the police were investigating into the night, Kate got a call from McKay Hospital that Amy was found. She was dehydrated in the outskirts of McKay, 500 miles to the north of Gandia, with no clue of what happened or how she got there. The doctors and the police examined her and collected some unusual evidence such as triangular marks on Amy's inner thighs and heels. Her body hair had noticeably grown, and bizarrely enough, Amy's dyed hair was now back to its natural color. These findings indicates that a considerable amount of time had passed for Amy rather than only few hours. After this incident, Kate and Amy had enough, and they left Tiero for good to an unknown city to save themselves from further incidents. However, this case is ever evolving and far from being closed. Number 4. The Hill alien abduction. This story is one of the first widely publicized cases of alien abduction in the US. Back in 1961, an American couple, Betty and Barney Hill, were returning from their vacation in Montreal, Canada, to their hometown in Portsmouth in New Hampshire. They left the diner in Montreal at around 10 p.m. and Barney aimed to reach home by 3 or 4 a.m. However, they didn't know that a very strange experience was waiting for them. Initially, in the south of Lancaster, New Hampshire, Betty claimed to see a UFO, but Barney refused to believe it and dismissed it as a satellite. However, when the light followed the car and grew in size, both Amy and Barney stopped their car to watch it more carefully. Betty used a binocular through which she observed a flying saucer in an odd shape. They felt a buzz in their car and then nothing happened. They were back on the road, but when they checked the clock, they noticed that 2 hours had passed since they observed the strange light, and they also noticed that they traveled almost 35 miles south in just a few moments. They had no recollection of what happened in the past 2 hours. The only thing they remembered is the strange light that followed their car prior to the time skip. Confused, they finally reached home. Upon arrival, and with the assistance of the bright lights of their home, they noticed some unusual presence of concentric circles on their car. Their watches weren't working, and they also noticed that Barney's shoes were scrapped. After both experienced repeated vivid dreams about what happened in those 2 missing hours, the couple decided to undergo hypnosis treatment in an attempt to retrieve their lost memories. They flew all the way to Boston to meet Dr. Benjamin Simon, a known psychiatrist. He worked with them separately, and their description of the alien abduction and their craft consistently matched in details. Dr. Benjamin Simon said that they most likely are telling the truth and that they're both mentally and physically stable. The Hill couple never tried to gain fame or money from the incident, and they never voluntarily talked about it. This story was documented in an American drama series called Project Blue Book. Number 3, the Allagash alien abduction. This is one of the most famous cases of alien abduction in the whole world. In 1974, two brothers and two of their friends, Jack and Jim Weiner, Chuck and Charlie, were allegedly abducted by aliens while they were camping in the wilderness of Maine. They planned to go fish at night, and they decided to set up a big fire next to the shoreline that will assist them on their way back to their spot. They took their canoes and ventured out into the lake, but only 20 minutes into their trip, a strange light came hovering above their heads. They saw some strange lights the nights before, but this one was very close and very big. One of the friends pointed his flashlight at it while the others panicked and tried to go back to the shore. And then, with a surprising similarity to the Hill abduction, they just woke up on the shore with no recollection of what happened. The blazing fire which they had started just before departure was now completely burned out. They could not remember how they came out of the water or how the fire dwindled to ashes. Jack was the first person who started having nightmares about being under scrutiny of somewhat humanoid beings. Later on, his brother Jim and others also experienced similar dreams. 12 years later, in 1988, Jack attended a UFO conference by the UFO researcher Raymond Fowler. After the conference, Weiner came up to him and told him about the incident and about his weird dreams. Fowler, in return, suggested that they should seek a regressive hypnosis, and so they did. They revealed that they underwent physical examinations where beings taken samples of fluid and skin from them, and some of them even have scars to prove it. They all passed lie detector tests and were heavily examined and researched by many ufologists. Number 2, the Robert Taylor alien abduction. It looks like aliens just like to wander around wilderness and lonely places at night. In 1979, a Scottish native and forestry worker, Robert Taylor, was about to finish his day by checking the fences and gates of Deckman Woods at 10:30 p.m. And then, just before he went back home, he reported that a spaceship just landed in front of him.
God's name.
That happens to me every day too. Why are you surprised? He said that two spiked objects rolled towards him from a 30 feet high dome-shaped ship and grabbed him by both of his legs. That is not nice, aliens. Taylor, remembering waking up in a disheveled state after 20 minutes, and immediately went home. He told his wife Mary about what happened, after which he called the police and told them that he was assaulted by an alien. The police took him seriously, and the crime investigator, Dan Work, arrived at the clearing of Deckman Woods to see a huge ditch and patterns of deep marks on the ground. Taylor also told to the BBC that there were 32 holes that were 3.5 meters in diameter on the ground. The marks were similar to the tracks of big bulldozers, but the police reported that the marks were just placed there. There were no marks that would suggest that a machine had been towed or driven away from there. Even after 3 interviews conducted by Dan Work, Taylor's story didn't change in his details. The police took Taylor's ripped trousers and sent them to a forensic examination. The report delineated that the rips of the trousers occurred from something hooking in them and moving up. That is pretty scary. Today, these trousers are in the possession of Malcolm Robinson, a ufologist who had been investigating such cases since the Deckman incident. In 2018, the UFO trail which led towards the alien spaceship opened up for visitors. Number 1, the Pascagoula alien abduction. In 1973, Kelvin Parker Jr. and Charles Hickson had gone fishing after work. They came to their fishing spot and noticed signs that indicates that fishing there was prohibited. Despite that, and under the night darkness, they decided to give it a chance. They were ready to bait the fish when Parker saw a blinding light. No, not the blinding light of the weekend, but a blinding light that reflected from the water. He recalled, quote, "I thought this was the police and that we are going to be arrested for trespassing," end quote. However, upon looking up, he saw a big cloud of light from which 3 small wrinkled-skinned creatures about 5 feet tall came down towards them. Parker and Hickson were paralyzed and said to have felt like they were floating in the air. Hickson later told the police department that both of them underwent physical examination and that Big Eye moved all over their bodies. Despite this horror movie, both of them were dropped back at the Delta without any harm. Initially, from the fear of being ridiculed, both decided against informing the officials, but later on, they told the police department what happened. Jackson County Sheriff Captain Glenn Reeder tried to judge the lie in their stories. He did not like the story and he thought they were drunk and they were lying. However, Parker and Hickson were not drunk and they even passed polygraph tests. Reeder tried to trick them. He installed a hidden camera in the room and left Parker and Hickson alone. But their story remained true. Both of them discussed their fears and sleeplessness due to the abduction. At the time, Parker was only 18 years old and he stayed quiet most of the time, but Hickson was almost 42 and he handled the media more carefully. They were not trying to gain any money or fame from it, and Parker started to avoid the media and hiding after this incident. Hickson, unfortunately, passed away in 2011, while Parker, after having a stroke and 2 open heart surgeries, decided that this is maybe his last chance to tell his story. He opened up to the media and he also published his book, Pascagoula, The Close Encounter, My Story, in 2018. So, what do you think about these stories? Personally, I'm happy that if the people were really abducted, were returned back to Earth without any harm. At least not physical harm. What do you think? Are all the people that believe they were abducted by aliens are just a bunch of lunatics? And if so, what about the evidence that the police and doctors had collected, from multiple eyewitnesses to signs on the ground to scars on the victims' bodies? Could it be that they just faked everything for the sake of it? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.